Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to be doing a 2020 Democratic primary election prediction between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So the first thing I want to mention is that in order to win the Democratic nomination, you need 2,026 delegates to become the Democratic nominee and then challenge Donald Trump in 2020. And so if you do not reach that number, superdelegates will decide at the Democratic National Convention. And so that will play a key part in deciding who will become the next nominee in case no one reaches the magic number here of 2026. I also want to look at where a lot of support comes from Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. So the first thing we want to look at is this new research study done by Gallup, and what it shows was very interesting, and especially among non-white Democrats, they tend to be less liberal. So look at this: 17% of liberal Democrats are black, 13% of liberal Democrats are Hispanic, and 65% of liberal Democrats are white. So Bernie Sanders is likely going to be getting voters from this pool of Democratic primary voters, while in comparison, conservative Democrats are 35% black, 22% Hispanic, and 40% white. And so a lot of the more moderate and conservative voters, especially people of color, are going to be breaking for Joe Biden. And so these are the two stark divides between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. Remember, this study does not include a moderate section, and so a lot of the other minorities, a lot of African Americans and Hispanic also identify as moderate. Now we want to go ahead and look at some polls and essentially see how Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are doing in a lot of the Democratic primary polls. And when we look at the polling in general, what we consistently see is a trend where Biden leads the pack by +10, +9 on average. Just take a look at this. You know, it's always Biden and Sanders in the top two spaces, but Biden always tends to lead by 9 to 10 points. And we can consistently see this trend among most reputable polls. And so we consistently see that Biden is leading the pack. And this can be due to more name recognition. Despite Biden and Sanders having high name recognition, a lot of people might know about Biden more than Sanders, largely because of his connection to the Obama administration and the Obama era. And so let's go ahead and officially start filling this map in, guys. And we're going to start with California in this Democratic primary. And so the first thing I'm going to do is look at some California polling. And so if we include Harris here and do not include Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden, Harris wins the state without a doubt. But if we include Joe Biden and Sanders, take a look at this. Joe Biden ties Kamala Harris for the state of California. And so Bernie Sanders is here in third place, and it's looking increasingly likely that Bernie Sanders would likely not carry the state of California. If we look back to 2016 and see how Bernie Sanders did in California, we can actually see that he didn't do too bad. He lost by around 7 points. And so assuming the margins are much closer now, he'd probably lose by only, 1 to 3 points. And so let's go ahead and fill California in for Joe Biden. And so Joe Biden would win California by probably 51 to 48 for Bernie Sanders. Let's look at another poll in the state of Iowa. Well, what we can consistently see in Iowa is Joe Biden leads in almost every one of these polls. And in this poll, he's tied with Bernie Sanders, and Beto O'Rourke has high name recognition in this poll, but this poll is kind of older now. And if we look at the more recent polls, Biden is leading by 9 to 12 points. If we look back in 2016 and compare the 2016 Iowa results, what we see is it was extremely close. Hillary Clinton literally won Iowa by, 0.02 percentage points. And so what would probably happen is Joe Biden would win Iowa by a slightly larger margin than Hillary Clinton, and then Bernie Sanders would still, come in close second. And so Joe Biden wins the state of Iowa. Let's look at some more polling real quick. Massachusetts, in the state of Massachusetts, the only poll released there, we can see that Joe Biden leads Bernie Sanders by 5 points. And so we're going to go ahead and give Massachusetts to Joe Biden. And what we can see from 2016 is Massachusetts was actually very close, maybe like 5 points off. And so it's actually going to be very similar to the results from 2016. But I'm going to increase Bernie Sanders' margin as he has probably gotten more support since then. One thing to point out is Joe Biden is particularly popular in the northeastern area right here of the United States. It's where he's from, Delaware particularly, so that's going to make a big impact on how he does in this primary election. We also want to look at some more polls from New Hampshire. So in New Hampshire, Sanders wins in one of these polls. He's 2 points ahead of Joe Biden. But if we look at these other two polls, Biden leads Sanders by 8 to 9 points, which is significant. And in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders actually won New Hampshire in 2016. He won it by, look at this, almost over 20 points. And so assuming Biden is doing really well, this is going to be a very close state. And so we're going to give this to Joe Biden, but only narrowly, and then we're going to make it closer for Bernie Sanders. And so New Hampshire goes to Joe Biden. Another state we want to do is South Carolina. We just got some South Carolina polls, and what we can consistently see is that in the races that include Sanders and Biden leads in South Carolina. South Carolina has a heavy African-American population, and they break more for Biden over Sanders. Now, Sanders still gets significant African-American support, but not as much as Biden, and that's kind of his problem in a lot of these heavy African-American population states. And so South Carolina will still significantly be pretty big. 2016 margin 73 to 26, assuming now it's probably 60-40 because Sanders has increased his support. So yeah, 61 to 38, that is, probably how he will do in South Carolina. That's all the polling we have for individual states, guys. And so the rest of these, I'm actually going to be using, historical data from 2016 to help me determine how Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden would perform, and, using home states to also help me determine, how someone would do in their home state. And so I'm going to speed up the rest of this video and fill in this map accordingly with proper percentages. And let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the final result of this map. You guys can probably skip to it, or you can watch the remaining part of this video sped up. See you guys next time.